Hey, friend, welcome to the podcast. You Are Significant, the podcast where you will hear real stories from real people, and we will get down into the truths of your own significance. You were created on purpose for a purpose with seeds of greatness inside of you. Now, let's get down to it. Welcome to this episode of You Are Significant. I'm so excited for Jessica Dudley to be on with us today. She is a dear friend of mine. We've been knowing each other a long time and growing together, growing business together, growing in the Lord together, really doing personal growth, the hard work of personal growth together. And, it's just rare to find somebody in life that you just really, really relate to. And Jessica is one of those people for me. And so, Jessica, thank you so much for being on today.
Oh, thank you for having me. And I feel the same way about you. I feel like we're just spiritually connected and like from the start. So I'm excited.
Yes, me too, girl.
I'm excited for us to have this conversation. Like, I don't know where it's going to take us.
Yes, and I was telling Jessica because we already have been talking quite a bit today, um, even before we hopped on here to record. And I just have been so excited for her to come on for the first time. And I want her to share her story today because Jessica is the type of person that I want to have back on the podcast for us to just chat and talk about things. We have a lot of deep conversations that I think you would enjoy listening in on.
Hmm.
And benefit from as a listener here on You Are Significant. So I'm excited for this to kind of be your first date with Jessica.
Thanks for
So
having me.
you're welcome. So Jessica is a certified Christian business, wellness, and inner healing coach and a featured author in the number one bestseller, Wealthy and Wisdom. Is that the book you were holding up?
Yeah, that's the book. Woohoo!
Wealthy and Wisdom, and
Yeah.
that's the stories of Proverbs 31 women leading the
Mhm.
way, and
Yeah.
a faith-driven leader known as the Queen of Breakthrough. So, as the founder of She is Resilient and a Celebrate Recovery director, Jessica empowers women of faith to break free from past hurts, overcome limiting beliefs, and step boldly into their kingdom calling. She's a wife of 23 years to her high school
Mhm.
sweetheart and a
Yeah.
devoted mom of three. Jessica brings authenticity, wisdom, and passion into her coaching, speaking, and worship leading. You're going to see that today. And her
Yeah.
mission is simple. I love this part, Jessica, to raise up resilient women who live confidently, build kingdom legacy, and glorify God in every area of their lives. So,
Yes.
woo!
Makes me
I'm
want to
so
cry.
excited. It's okay to
Like,
cry.
that's me. That's me.
Oh, it really is. It really is. I think that describes you well. So
Thank you.
again, welcome to You Are Significant.
I love that.
Oh,
Thank you.
so I'm just excited for this time together today. And Jessica tells her story inside of the book that she just showed you. And so I've
Hmm.
asked her today to come on and share some of her story because we love to hear people's stories of breaking through and breaking
Hmm.
free and seeing how God has shown them their significance because even yesterday at church, in one of our sessions, because we have three different sessions and they're all three different. Our first session is about Jesus and remembering his death and just different aspects of that and what he's done for us. And we take the Lord's Supper every Sunday at our church and remember him through that. And then the second session is a Bible study, and the third
Hmm.
session is like our preacher or minister can preach on whatever God's laying on his heart. And so I love our worship every Sunday. It's so rich, and I love that
Hmm.
format. And, he was just talking yesterday about encouragement and how it is. We need to encourage each other, and we all are still really healing from the pandemic. the effects of that, and all the time we were cooped up and had to be separated, and church stopped for a lot of people, and
Mhm.
people started worshiping at home, which I think it's great to worship in our homes. We should worship in our homes, but there is a time to come together, and that togetherness cannot be substituted. And so one of the thoughts to encourage us was how your encouragement, my encouragement, is needed, and it
Mhm.
makes a difference. It is significant. And I just started crying tears,
Yeah.
thinking about what a difference encouragement has made in my life. Um,
Mhm.
and, a lot of times people just feel like they maybe don't feel compelled to say something that is on their heart because they don't realize that it matters. And so I love that you're a person who's an encourager, and that is
Yeah, thank
one of
you.
your giftings. And so I just feel like we're so blessed already to have you here.
Thank you.
So
And I
share your.
think too, I really, the biggest encouragers are the ones that really need it.
Mhm.
I feel. And when I'm encouraged by other people, I don't get it a lot, honestly. And I don't know why. It definitely is a gift to encourage, but it's like a mission. I feel like encouragers have is like, it's just so easy for us to do. But when I think about my own life, like I haven't gotten a lot of encouragement. And when I do, I just, even being around you, like you are one of the biggest encouragers that I know. And
Thank
that's why
you.
I love being close to you. I love connecting to you because when I'm around you, you don't even have to do anything. I feel encouraged.
Oh, thank you.
You're
Thank you
like,
very
for real. Like,
much.
even being on this podcast today, you are significant. And I know you've asked me to do this probably at least since you started your podcast. I don't know how long you've actually had your
I've
podcast
had it
available to
18
listen.
months.
18 months ago, you even asked me, and I haven't felt significant.
Mhm.
And it's really interesting that today that we're doing this and you read my bio, and I was like, I really am significant. What I
Mhm.
share matters. This book matters. My community matters. My coaching matters.
Mhm.
It all matters.
Mhm. It
And the
does.
Lord's like, He's encouraging me today as I'm like on this podcast. So I'm just really proud to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Oh, I'm so glad
Yeah.
it finally happened.
Hey,
It
me
does take
too.
a lot of courage to be on a podcast because it is a
Hmm.
step of faith. Every time we push record here, it's a step of faith because you don't know exactly what's going to be said or
Yeah.
exactly what's going to happen, and so
Hmm.
we're trusting. We're really trusting that the Lord is going to show up and direct it
Yeah.
and guide it and speak through us. That's my
Yeah.
prayer. I was praying before I got on this podcast today,
Me too.
and just asking God to speak through the podcast. And
Hmm.
I pray that as you listen, that's how you feel about what you hear today from Jessica and I.
Amen.
So I want to give Jessica the floor to share her story, go back to where you want to begin, Jessica. I always like to hear about
Okay.
childhoods and, what it was like growing up and
Right.
kind of start at the beginning.
I really like in my book, I kind of start at my breaking point of when everything just felt so overwhelming. And as I go back and look at my journey, and I wrote this chapter a year ago, and God has just transformed me even more. And He's shown me even more things that I could have put in this book, but I didn't have the wisdom that I have today. And when I look back at my childhood, I was the oldest of two brothers, and my parents are still married today, and I came from a very dysfunctional childhood, not on purpose. I don't think it was intentional, but just the way my parents grew up. It was probably how a lot of people grew up, but I watched my mom struggle with mental health, and I watched my dad work really hard to take care of us and to take care of her. And I developed this identity of I actually have it in my chat GPT. This little chat says Miss Codependent or Miss Independent, which
Mm,
really made me Miss Codependent. And when I go back and look at her, she never wanted to be a burden to anyone. She always wanted to be helpful. She always wanted to pick up the stress of, you know, day to day chores, laundry, cooking, things like that. And I love that about me. Like, I can remember carrying my youngest brother, Aaron, on my hip. Like, I had this little indention in my hip because he always stayed there. And
mhm,
I love being that little mama. Like,
mhm,
I think all little girls do. They just love being a little mama. And I love being a helper. And that's what gave me so much value as a child. It
mhm,
really did. And so not so there's like so many positives and then some there's negatives too. It's like the good and the bad. And of like character defects that I developed as a child and growing up. And I can just really see how the codependency really shaped my life. Being in survival mode, like, I just thought that made me better. Like, you put me in chaos, I'm going to show out. Like, let me put me in the most stressful situations and I'm going to do my best. And
mhm,
so that was really how I grew up, is in that mindset of like chaos and survival and all of that. And I met my husband in high school. We are high school sweethearts. He was actually, when I look back at it, he was my rescuer. And not that I felt like I needed rescuer, but he was the person that God brought into my life to change everything.
mhm,
And so looking back at that, like, God knew what I needed before I did, because I wasn't somebody who wanted to get married. I didn't want to have kids. I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't have a purpose. I didn't know what to do, honestly. And so as we got married young at 19, he wanted to buy a house, he wanted to get married, he had goals and dreams. Like, that was one thing that I loved about him too, is that he knew what he wanted, and I was like, let's go. Like, I didn't want to fight, I wasn't fighting against it. I was like, yes, let's do all these things. And I waited tables and bartended and served and all of this. And I really didn't have purpose until I gave my life to God. And I was 26 when that happened. I'm 42 now. And when I look at my life, then it was like my grandfather passed away, another moment of survival, chaotic. He was like a Bible like, he was fire and brimstone. He was like, you do this or you're going to hell kind of religion. And that's kind of how I grew up. So I never really wanted that relationship with the Lord. But that weekend that he passed away, I knew that, like, I could look back and see how the Lord was just calling me closer to him and changing the music that I was listening to, and just wanting to be at church with my dad. My dad was a pastor. And so I did grow up, going to church and things like that, but I never had that relationship with God. But as soon as I gave my life to the Lord, or I received his life for mine, I knew that I wanted to have a family. I knew that I wanted to have a kid. I knew that it was like all of a sudden I had purpose. And
mhm.
so that's really when everything changed, of like the Lord healing me layer by layer. But I didn't know that's what was happening.
Wow. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I didn't know your dad was a pastor.
He
Was
was.
he
He started
full-time or bivocational?
he actually it was probably in my teenage years that he gave his life to the Lord. I remember that night that he gave his life to the Lord. My dad smoked, he drank, he was a wild man, and he still took care of us and all of that. But I remember we went to this church called the Word Church, and it was like Pentecostal, speaking in tongues, dancing, all of that. But I remember the night that he gave his life to the Lord, he was just like crying and just like that encounter changed his life. And probably was a few years after the Lord was really working on him. My dad was a worship leader. He carried
Wow.
a box around, tapes. I watched my dad do that. And my dad, when he would sing songs, I would just like everybody, you could just feel the Holy Spirit and the anointing of just my dad singing. And
Mm,
then it was like there was a church that didn't have a pastor. He went and got his license. And, that was a whole journey. And that really ended when my brother went to prison. And I
mm,
do share about my brother going to prison in the book. And that's really, um, when I look back at giving my life to the Lord and creating this family and all of this, and it was just a few years later that I had significant things happen in my life around the same time. And I feel like here I am, this on fire Christian, like Jesus has changed my life. And then I remember my brother going to the Marines, my youngest brother who was on my hip, and he went into the Marines. And then my other brother, Isaac, who I love, he has such a tender heart like my dad. And he ended up going to prison. And
mm,
that it was like those two things. And then Corey ended up having a forklift accident one day that we were cleaning out our home. We were going to sell our home. It was like we had this vision of moving to a new house with a flat yard. We had like a vision of where we were going. And then he had that forklift accident. And I felt like everything around me just like crumbled.
mm,
And that's really when my survival mode just like, I can like, that's when everything changed. I was like, I got our house ready to sell. It did sell. Like I started making things happen. And um, wanted to be the support system for my mom and dad. And, my dad's church that he went to, they were like, we can't have you preach here anymore. They didn't like the fact that my brother went to prison, even though he wasn't even living in my dad's home anymore. But it was like, it was a reflection of them, I guess, the way they thought of like my dad pastoring and then having his son go to prison. So that
mm,
really ripped my dad's heart out, and he's not been the same since.
mhm,
And he's not a worship leader, he's not a pastor, but he still takes care of my mom. He's such a great man of God, even though all this has happened. But I look back and think, that's where it all started. Like that's what the Lord's shown me. It's like that's why I wanted to fight so hard and help and just really when I look back at it now, it was like not that I felt like that was God, but it was like I knew God uses people. We are vessels, and I just started doing things in my own strength,
mhm,
and
mhm,
that will wear you out.
mm,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, and men, that's one of the things that we've talked about recently is church leadership. They're all humans. There's
Hmm.
none of them perfect. The only perfect person that ever walked the planet was Jesus. And
Right.
so, all ministers, elders, deacons, teachers, youth pastors, whatever, all have faults. They're all
Hmm.
human. And so, you know, uh, I mean, I feel like your dad could step back into ministry if he would have a
He
bigger
could.
testimony because of your brother and what happened. I mean, without knowing all the details, uh, already I know that God could use that as a huge testimony that would encourage so many to come to
Hmm.
Christ, and that,
Right.
their life is not too imperfect to be his. And,
Hmm.
we when we look in the Bible at all the different people Jesus talked to, he talked to the woman at the well, and,
Hmm.
he said, "Where's your husband?" She said, "I don't have one." And he said, "You're right. You've had 5 husbands, and the one you're with
Yeah.
now, you're not married to." And
Hmm.
so, Jesus loved her and he saved her. And um, that's just one, right, out of all of
Hmm.
the stories of who Jesus specifically
Hmm.
talked to, and then we know he died for all. So I
Right.
just have to pull on that thread a little bit because I know myself, I'm not perfect, and I don't have
Hmm.
this podcast or show up as a health coach because I never eat anything wrong. I show up as a health coach because I am going to eat pizza. I am going to have a brownie. I am going to have ice cream. cream's my favorite dessert, by the way. Um, and we need to know how to navigate. I'm in recovery
Mhm.
for emotional eating. We
Mhm.
need someone who's imperfect and real. I'm
Right.
just using this part of your dad's story and your story to share this thought, and I hope that's okay. Um,
Mhm.
that we need real
Yeah.
people that aren't perfect to show up and be the ones who lead us, coach us, help us get to heaven, that are our ministers.
Mhm.
And so I love that you're being bold. You haven't tried to hide that. Like you could have just left that part out of your
Yeah.
story over here and hid and said, "Oh no, for some reason dad just stopped in year so and so," but instead you're like,
Yeah.
"No, my brother went to prison and the church wasn't happy and they asked him to step down." So, wow, what a
And
boldness
that
that
was
you have.
really heartbreaking to him. And I see the church hurt that he has.
Mhm.
But it's not my job to fix it or try
And
to
his
fix
story isn't
him.
done. His
And
story's
his
not
story is
done.
not, I feel like that's why I really am talking about it, is because the Holy Spirit's like bringing it back up to my attention, of even like reminding me to pray and really to keep my eyes open of like, yeah, that's what the enemy did, but just wait and see what I do now,
Because
you know?
she is resilient.
I just like, as we're talking about it, I just really feel like that's one, because I never have shared that about my family, and I love my family so deeply,
Mhm,
and I have been very codependent on my family, and that was when I look back over the years of, after the accidents and my brother going to prison and my youngest brother being away and all of that, I became very stressed out,
mhm.
and I had stress had broken my body down, and I became compromised. And that's when, God brought, I was praying for answers. And that's when God brought gut health into my life. And that's how we met, through our company. And He really used that to bless me. Like that moment in time, it was like, now that I'm talking about it, I can see like how that, all those things happened over here, like with my dad and my husband and my brothers. And then, let's see, that was probably when I was 36, that I think my middle son, he was probably 2 around that time. So it was like I've had all my babies 5 years apart, which is very interesting. But Titus was around 2, sick and tired mama, exhausted, all of that. And then this new thing comes into my life, and I start healing my gut health, which is huge. I start
Mhm,
regaining mental clarity. I start really seeing a new purpose for my life that didn't involve fixing my family or taking care of them or worrying about them, but it opened up a door for me to dream and to
mhm.
become like, and I could still help people, but not in a way that I was helping them before. It was like a whole new thing. Like I could help them not be sick and tired anymore. I could help them go to the bathroom. I could help them, like create a
Create
business.
income.
Yeah, like,
Yes.
and I was a mom. I was a stay at home mom. I've been a stay at home mom for, my oldest will be 16 in February. So it's been almost 16 years that I've been a stay at home mom. And just the guilt that I've had being a stay at home mom. I wanted to be a stay at home mom. My husband wanted me to be a stay at home mom, but even still having that survival mode, and like I can take care of myself in a different way. It's like, oh, let me take care of this house. Let me take care of these kids. I don't need help. I don't want my husband helping. He works so hard, and I don't want a need for anything. And it's just a whole new thing happened,
Mhm,
like the layer of survival mode and all of that. And I'm like, well, I need to create income. I need to help pay for these products that I've started. And then I wanted to grow personally. And then there's conferences and books and all the things that we want to do. We want to travel. I can remember I didn't know I could travel as a stay at home mom. Like,
mhm,
I didn't know moms did that.
mm.
I didn't know moms took care of themselves because, my mom struggled mentally to take care of herself, to take care of us. And I didn't know that I was allowed to do that. until Gut Health came into my life, until this company came into my life, until this community came into my life. And it was like everything shifted in such a great way. And
Mhm.
it was another layer of healing that the Lord used. And it's just like that story is just so powerful of looking back. And oh, and then around that time, I was invited to be a worship leader at our church. I'd never sang before. I just love to worship God because I was warring for my family and praying. You know, one scripture, the prayers of the righteous availeth much, and I was like, I got to be righteous, I got to be praying. You know, and then it was like a whole other thing over here. You know, always striving to like do the most. And I know we've talked about that, where I'm like, it's got to be hard.
Mm.
That was my mindset. It's like it's got to be hard. You got to go after it. Um, so it's just really interesting to think of that too.
Mhm. It is. It's interesting to think, how many Christians think it's got to be hard for them to be righteous. If they're not overcoming, if they're not self punishing, if they're not shaming themselves, if they're not making something be harder than it has to be, and then overcoming that, like self sabotaging, really. Um,
Hmm.
then they aren't being righteous. And that is just so false.
And
It is.
serving in every area of the church, just wearing yourself down. That was me.
Mm. Yeah, and it's okay for us to see what our giftings are. Do you have the gift of encouragement? Do you have the
Hmm.
gift of speaking? Do you have the gift of singing or leading singing? Do you have the gift of teaching a Bible class, teaching kids, teaching women, it's okay for you to discover your gifting and then stay in that lane. And
Hmm.
I do believe, like with the parable of the talents, we can see that when they were righteous with what they were given, God gave them more. So
Hmm.
that is not striving, because then
Right.
when God gives you more, then it's he's giving you the strength and he's providing what you need to do it. But if you're over striving and you're overdoing because you're worried you're going to be lost, if it's not hard, unnecessarily hard, then
Hmm.
that is
Yeah.
not, that is self-righteousness. It's really not being godly. So,
Hmm.
and I think, we can't sit from the outside and judge anyone. That's not what this is about. This is about getting honest with yourself from what you're hearing from Jessica's story and what she's gone through in her inside of herself, and say, okay, why am I doing it that way? Why am I
Hmm.
doing this or not doing this? Um, and I one of the things that we've overcome in our recovery is letting something negative happen to get the attention, to
Hmm.
get the attention for the negative thing, to get forgiveness, to feel forgiven, to feel good. Isn't that just
Right.
so warped?
Hmm. Yeah.
But I'm sorry. I mean, again, not judging. I know we're not the only ones over here that have had this struggle in the family. Um,
Hmm.
And so you don't have to do negative things. You don't have to like neglect your health or go out and do something bad or stupid or dumb or even sinful to get negative attention, to be forgiven, to feel forgiven. Like,
Hmm.
it so warps some of the things that Satan does to
Yeah.
us with it. And a lot of times it's subconscious. We don't
Hmm.
even realize, like, I tend to do negative things. That's my addiction, is to like sabotage my life so then I get forgiven. uh, And then because I'm
Hmm.
forgiven, then I feel forgiven and I feel loved and I feel favored. Uh-uh.
Right.
So
Yeah.
calling these things out is huge. Being able to speak it out like you're speaking out parts of your story today. And for Dawn and I, learning about our own behaviors and where Satan has tripped us up, sometimes for
Hmm.
decades. Dawn is going on 58 and I'm 50. And
Hmm.
it has just totally been a journey to like see ourselves. And Don's fighting cancer right now. He has thyroid cancer.
Mhm.
And this is not a time for negative behaviors. Like, you could die
Right.
if you do this the wrong
Yeah.
way. You've got
Mhm.
to do things the right way. Like, don't eat a bunch of sugar. Sugar feeds cancer. Take care of yourself. Let's do this the right way this time.
Mhm.
You are forgiven. You are loved. You're going to get plenty of attention.
Mhm.
We don't need to come save you this time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's very interesting, this journey that we're on together as humans.
Mhm. And I never felt like I when I'm looking at it, I was like, um, I never knew that I needed saving. Like I never realized that I was the one that needed help. And another part of my journey is 2020 happened. I really felt on fire around that time. Everything was going good. It was like my life was finally feeling good. My brother was almost out of prison. Um, it was just so many good things were happening. And then it was like 2020 happened. The world shut down, I remember in March. And then I found out I was pregnant with my third baby, Asher. And I was just like, what? I'm 38. Never was thought that was going to happen. Just lost all my weight. Like I just hit my goal weight. Like all these things were happening. You know what I mean? And I was just like, wow, I got hit right in the face. And that's when, it was a whole nother layer of journey. I started uh, going to Celebrate Recovery. That's when Celebrate Recovery started. Someone asked if I would lead worship for that ministry. And this is my thought around Celebrate Recovery. I thought, okay, my brother's going to get out of prison. If I were lead worship there, he'll come.
Mm,
Oh, my family need this. They'll come. Like I never believed that I needed it. I just knew everybody else did.
mhm,
And I started this journey of Celebrate Recovery and love the ministry. And it became a part of my life and it brought so much healing. That's when I learned about codependency. I realized, oh, it's actually me that has the issues of
mm.
doing these things.
Me too,
And
girl.
it
It was
started a
an
whole
eye opener.
it started a whole new healing journey for me. Set some boundaries. Um, and even just a few years later, Asher is 4 now. He'll be 5 in December. And I think about, the Lord delivering me from an orphan spirit. And I think about the what that meant. Like I've been a Christian for 16 years, but the enemy came in with rejection and isolation and making me feel like I was alone, that I needed to save and fix everyone and all those things. Um, and then I realized like, God, like I was felt like an orphan. When the Lord healed me from that, that was like a game changer. And
Mhm,
right around that time, that's when he called me into Christian life coaching, which was weird. I was like, I heard that it was like all of a sudden I get this prompting or this calling to be a Christian life coach. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And then I get healed from the orphan spirit or the spirit of rejection or whatever you want to call it. And I have this inner healing session from someone at my church. She sees me. She's like, I think you're ready for this. And I have this session that completely changes my life. And and then I'm like, okay, this is why I'm going into Christian life coaching. And
mm,
that's when this whole new journey came about, like the book and this journey of like joining this mastermind and stepping out in faith and believing that actually God has called me to help women heal. And really, I see women who are entrepreneurs who really struggle because I feel like God uses entrepreneurs for kingdom purpose.
mm.
Yeah.
Wow. Talk a little bit more about that. Why do you think that's true?
When I think about, me stepping out into network marketing, where I
Mhm,
learned so many skills for free, and I'm also an encourager. So, like that gifting comes easy for me. Exhortation, like that's where I get to use that in worship. And then I step into this entrepreneurship and I'm like, I'm called to create kingdom wealth. And I'm
Mm,
like, oh wow, that's why when I seen the top of the company, I was like, God's like, you can do that. And I was like, what? Like, I never believed I could do anything like that. And I was like, okay. And, that's what started my journey of being an entrepreneur and stepping into creating another business of coaching. And when I see women who are married or not married, wealth is always like not having enough or this poverty mindset, which is also connected to the orphan spirit, is the poverty mindset, living in poverty, thinking that, you can't have more.
mhm.
And I know that God has called us to live this abundant life so that we could be givers, so that we can actually give more for the kingdom. When I think I heard Jessica Heffley say this, she's in our company. She's like, when more good people have money, they do good things.
Yeah.
And I feel like women, that's why I like the Proverbs 31 women, like this book is full of entrepreneurs, women who are using their story for purpose. God always uses our pain for purpose.
Mhm.
And I feel like whenever you're an entrepreneur, there's a reason why you became an entrepreneur, because you believe that God has called you to do more, or there was something that happened in your family and you're like, I don't want to live that way. I want a different life.
Mhm.
And I feel like whenever you actually step out in faith, it's a total faith journey when you're an entrepreneur and you have your own business and you're creating with the Lord.
Mhm. Mhm.
And what I've learned over the past year is once I finished this mastermind and I was creating and I was so busy, man. I was just like burning it at both ends, just like working my business and creating all these new things, which was so beautiful because my word that year was create. And my coach was like, girl, you've done it. You've created everything. There's like there's nothing else for you to create. And I love to create. But what I realized was I wasn't actually working with God anymore. I
Hmm.
was working in my own strength trying to do it. And I didn't realize that because I was doing this for God, but
Mhm.
I wasn't doing it with him,
Mm.
which was such an eye
Yeah.
opener. Yeah.
Mhm.
And such a hard lesson because it's like you're this kingdom entrepreneur and God's given you this calling and you said yes to it. And then he gives you this big vision, but you think, I thought, oh, well, let me go do that now. But he
Mhm.
was like, he's still like, hey, but do you want me to come with you? You
Mhm.
know?
Mhm.
I hear him say that to me now. Do you want me to come with you though? Or are you gonna go keep doing what you're doing over there?
What I hear you saying is you were living into your significance and you were
Mm-hmm.
creating like you set out to do. But really to be your most significant self, you realized, oh my goodness, I have left God out somehow. I've been doing this of my own strength, and I need to get back to
Mm-hmm.
my roots. I need to get back to prayer. I need to get back to even some fasting. I need to get back to
Mm-hmm.
reading my Bible and staying in the Word, and like not just singing, but thinking about the words that I'm singing, not just my voice or, how's my
Yeah.
outfit. Not that you were doing that necessarily, but just how we end up where we end up as humans. We may
Yeah.
still be serving God and doing the things, but in our heart, and God sees our
Mm-hmm.
heart, there's
Yeah.
been some kind of shift. And it's so easy because of the energy it takes to create
Mm-hmm.
consistently. And for those of you listening, you might be thinking, why do they keep saying create? What are we talking about? Like when you're creating a coaching course, or when you're creating a podcast and you're inviting the guests and you're editing and you're picking your music, and there's a
Mm-hmm.
lot that goes into producing something. And so
Mm-hmm.
we like to, I do too. I totally feel like a creator. Um, But it is, God made us as women have the ability to create. We're the ones who carry the children. We're the ones who the
Mhm.
child grows inside of. And that is really a feminine power that God has given us. Men have it too. They're able to build houses and build cars, and they're also the leader of the home, and they're shaping children into
Mhm.
adults who are going to be godly adults, and men, boys into men, by leading them in a godly way into men who are godly that will lead the church. And in
Mhm.
that sense, and their own families. And in that sense, men are creators too, because we talk about this a lot on this podcast. We are created in God's image with seeds
Mhm.
of greatness inside of us. It's part of the introductory portion of this podcast.
Right.
Every single episode is that
Mhm.
we have seeds of greatness inside of us, but it's easy sometimes to get so busy that we stop journaling. We stop starting our day with prayer. We stop taking time to be grateful. I've really been working myself to get back to right now I'm in the mental phase, but I'm going to start writing down at least one unique thing I'm thankful for
Mhm.
every day. I did it for a lot of years, and then at some point my team grew to a certain place, and something happened. My streak got broke. You know how
Mhm.
you have streaks and things
Yep.
now, and my streak got broke, and so I wasn't writing it down. And then I just sort of, and it'll slip. That attitude of gratitude will fade away if we don't
Mhm.
stay committed to what was feeding it and growing it. So that's an area I'm working on,
That's
re
good.
um, connecting to God in
Right.
that way,
Yeah.
because I think gratitude is a foundational emotion that we start with, that then is like a gateway emotion into peace and love and joy and the other fruit of the Spirit.
And it really aligns us with God and feeling His presence. And I was listening to a book the other day on audio, and she was talking about, it's called Victorious Emotions. I think it's Wendy Blackwell, or I don't think that's the right last name, but Wendy something Buckland or something like that. And she was talking about when you have these victorious emotions, you are connected to the Father, and you are able to hear from the Father more than when you're operating in fear and anxiety and worry and stress and poverty mindset and all of these things. Like, you can't hear from God in that way. And I do share in the book of, when you have these painful experiences, you can't even hear God anymore. Like, his voice is, you just don't hear it. And so whenever he called me out of the pain, I was able to hear, like, so clearly. And even this summer, we had something painful happen. My dad's sister passed away of pancreatic cancer. And I really feel like he uses pain. He turns our pain into purpose, our pain into passion. And that's exactly, I feel like, how entrepreneurs are birthed also. But when my aunt passed away, she was given just like a few weeks to live. And I just got out of my mastermind. My book was coming out. We were going on vacation, and we had our convention with our work and all these things. And it was like the Lord just like set me down for a holy pause.
Mm.
And it was like, I thought I was just like, everything felt so hard. And it's when the survival mode was like, I was like, let me go create this new thing again. Like, I felt it. Let me go create this so I was using it for a buffer, or really, I'm going to learn more about it, I'm sure. But it was like I was using creating to buffer, like, instead of running to God.
Mhm.
And when he was like, pause, and my aunt was sick, and I was like, I need to just quit doing, and I did quit everything. Like, it was like, I need to focus on my life, I need to focus on my family, my kids, everything. And the Lord just used all of that for good, and to
Mhm.
really call me into this new place of healing with him.
Mhm.
And I really feel like this season, even with everything that's happening in our world, and just the connection with God, and how really that is the most important thing that we have. It's not about the things that I've created, or the business, or the dreams that I have. Like, the Lord is just really reminding me of, like, He's my first love. Like, He's like, when I'm in Christ, I have everything.
Yes.
And just to live moment by moment, and that's something that I've just been learning over the last few weeks. It's like just living the moment by moment, enjoying talking to you on this podcast. And when I get off of this, I'm going to go lead worship tonight at Celebrate Recovery, and I get to go to my place of wonderful, like we talked about today. And that's where I get to love on people, and they love being there.
Mhm.
And it's a place of
Well,
healing.
it's
Celebrate Recovery.
reciprocal. It's okay to
Yeah.
say that. It's reciprocal, like, you're
Mhm.
loving on them and they're loving on you, and that's
Yes.
okay. I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes we almost feel guilty if we wanna love on people so we'll be loved on, but we all as
Mhm.
humans need love. Love is
Mhm.
like oxygen. We need it. We have to have it,
Right.
and we're gonna go find it, so I love that you have found your place of wonderful where you can give and love
Mhm.
and be given back to and loved on.
Thank you. I'm excited too. I'm
Yeah.
like, that was a new word today, place of wonderful. And I'm like, and it's not a striving kind of love. It's not a codependent kind of love. It's just a love where you're really receiving it from the Lord, and you're just like, you have it to pour back out because He's just like giving it to you. And I heard Friday night, like, when you have the oil and the Lord's just pouring this an oil over you, and you just keep it all to yourself, it's not going, it doesn't do anything. But when you just let it flow and you break the box, the alabaster box, and you just let God just pour through you, and it doesn't exhaust you, because He says
Mhm.
that His Spirit will energize us.
Mhm.
And so when we're doing these things for God or with God, partnering with Him, we're not exhausted, we're not striving, we're not proving. It's a whole different new thing,
Mhm.
that we get to step into with Him, which after all these years, I'm like, okay, Lord, I hear you. Like, this is
Yes.
how I want to serve and give back, and love people.
Mhm. I think that's what relating to what we were talking about earlier about the talents. We know that
Mhm.
when we're using our talents, when he's given us more, if we're not exhausted, if we feel energized, then we are walking in our giftings and we're
Right.
where we're supposed to be. And that, the one of the recent episodes here was on resistance, and resistance is actually a sign that you are right on track.
Oh, wow.
So it's not that there isn't going to be any resistance either, but we can tell. The way we can tell is by praying and asking God for wisdom and
Mhm.
asking Him, like, is this resistance a sign that I'm right on track because the devil's trying to stop me because he knows I'm doing big things and he doesn't want that to happen for the
Right.
kingdom?
Mhm.
Or, am I striving and I'm feeling this kind of way because I'm not in the right place doing your will? And
Right.
I think there still is a distinction that is easy to recognize, or at least recognizable, even if it
Mhm.
isn't easy.
Yeah.
Well, that's all our time for today. Y'all can tell this is Jessica's a lady that we're going to want to have back on to chat with some more. She's full of so much wisdom
Thank you.
and she has such a light. I like to call her an angel,
Oh, you're
because
sweet.
she really is like when you're around Jessica, you just automatically feel better because there's like this aura of peace and
Yeah, thank
love
you.
that just exudes
I
from you,
received that.
Jessica. So, thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for spending time with us today and for sharing your story. Hold up your
Mhm.
book one more time. We want to go order our copy.
Wealthy in
Wealthy in
Wisdom.
Wisdom by Megan
Mhm.
Unsworth. And what does it say?
It has over 30 women thought leaders. And so I love thinking of a thought leader, because we have, when you think about the thoughts and how it changes everything.
Uh-huh.
felt so
And
powerful.
I'll drop in the show notes Jessica's coaching information. She is a Christian life coach and has some really amazing things created for you to
Hmm.
get help. And so we'll have her back on again to share more. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Jessica. Love you.
Love you. Bye, guys.
Thank you for tuning in to You Are Significant. I hope this episode inspired you to embrace your own God given purpose. If this episode inspired you and blessed you, would you please share it out with a friend who needs to be reminded of their own significance? And remember to hit subscribe. Until next time, remember to walk in faith, find the joy, and stand in your significance.